My name is Lauren James. I'm 32 years old. And this is how I took revenge on the man who promised to love me forever and then left me shattered in every way a woman can break. I've been sitting in this car for 2 hours. The engine's off, but the heat inside feels suffocating. Sweat clings to the back of my neck, but I don't move. I just stare at the house. Our house. Beige siding, white shutters, the same red front door we painted together 5 summers ago, laughing as the dog tracked paw prints across the porch. Only now, it's their house. The curtains are open. She's in the kitchen. I can see her silhouette moving, graceful, confident, like she owns the place. Maybe she does now. Maybe he gave her everything. She used to drink red wine on my couch, vent about her toxic exes, tell me how lucky I was to have him. My best friend, my maid of honor. Now she's his. I haven't slept in 3 days, haven't cried in 2. The tears dried up somewhere between the lawyer's office and the hospital. Now there's only stillness, the kind that settles after a storm, when everything's been flattened and nothing grows quite right again. People ask what happened. I say, life. But the truth? He left me when I needed him most, when my body betrayed me, when I was buried in grief so deep I couldn't find the surface. And he didn't just leave. He replaced me, quickly, cleanly, like I was a broken appliance he couldn't be bothered to fix. But I wasn't broken. I was hurting, and he was going to learn the difference. I shift in my seat, the leather groaning beneath me. My fingers tap against the steering wheel, slow, rhythmic. I've been planning this for months, not out of rage, not even out of bitterness. This isn't some Lifetime movie tantrum with slashed tires and keyed doors. No, this is precise, intentional, surgical. He took everything, the house, the dog, the friends who didn't want to pick sides. He even kept the fucking toaster. And her? She was the cherry on top, like she'd just been waiting for her cue. Maybe she had. You're probably judging me already, wondering what kind of woman sits outside her ex-husband's house like a ghost. But I'm not here to haunt. I'm here to teach a lesson. Because pain like mine doesn't just vanish. It calcifies. It sharpens. And when it finally moves, it cuts. By the end of this story, you'll understand why I did what I did. And more importantly, you'll agree with me. If you'd asked me 5 years ago what my life would look like by 32, I would have told you about the white picket fence, a golden retriever, a little boy with Ryan's hazel eyes and my stubborn curls. I would have described holidays spent with friends, matching pajamas, too much wine, Sunday pancakes, laughter, chaos, love. Back then, I believed in things like fate, soulmates, teamwork. I met Ryan Foster when I was 23. He was 29, already established, already moving in a world I hadn't even stepped into yet. A corporate litigator, brilliant, sharp-tongued, magnetic. He had that kind of presence that made rooms tilt toward him. I was a journalism major, fresh out of Northwestern, all heart and curiosity and not nearly enough cynicism. He liked that about me at first, said I made him believe in good people again. I liked the way he listened, how he remembered things, my favorite poet, the song I cried to in high school, how I took my coffee. He had a way of making the world feel like it was narrowing down just to the two of us. When he proposed, 2 years later, on a freezing December evening in front of the Art Institute, I didn't hesitate. I thought I'd won the lottery. For the first 5 years, it was bliss, at least on the surface. He worked long hours, but he always came home. We traveled when we could. He made me laugh. I believed in the life we were building. When I got an offer to work at a major media outlet in New York, I turned it down. Ryan's firm had just made him partner. Chicago was his future, and I believed that my future was ours. People told me it was a sacrifice. I called it love. We had a tight circle of friends, couples from law school, old colleagues, a few neighbors, and Rachel, always Rachel. She was my college roommate, the kind of friend who knew where the bodies were buried and helped dig the holes. She helped plan my wedding, held my hair back when I drank too much, slept in my bed the night my dad died. She was family. When Ryan and I started trying for a baby, Rachel was the first person I told. She bought me ovulation kits, joked about baby names, brought me heating pads after every failed round of IVF. She cried with me when I lost the first one, and the second. By the third, I stopped telling people. It was easier to pretend everything was fine than to watch their faces collapse with pity. Ryan started working later. I told myself it was stress. He wanted to be a dad. He was hurting too. But he didn't cry. He didn't talk. He just started going quiet, slowly, like a dimmer switch turning down the light in a room. He said I wasn't fun anymore, that everything was about hormones and hospitals and moods. He missed the girl who used to laugh at his bad jokes and make pancakes on Sundays. I tried to tell him I missed her too. Then one day, I found a hotel key card in his wallet, just slipped behind a receipt for dry cleaning. It wasn't ours. I held it like it might bite me. My mind ran wild. Business trip? Lunch meeting? But it wasn't near his office or our house, and he hadn't mentioned anything about it. I could have asked him. I didn't. Instead, I convinced myself not to become that wife, the one who snoops, who accuses. I told myself love required trust, even when it hurt, even when my gut was screaming. But paranoia isn't a sickness when it turns out to be right. 6 weeks later, I knew. It was Rachel. It was always Rachel. They weren't even careful. The lipstick on the wine glass in our kitchen, her perfume lingering on his jacket, the same one I'd helped him pick out for his birthday. She laughed louder when he was around. He smiled longer when she walked into the room. It broke me. Not all at once. Not like glass. More like ice. A slow, spreading crack that starts quietly, invisibly, until the whole thing gives way beneath your feet. I left that night. He didn't follow. The worst part, he didn't even try to explain. Just stared at me like a man inconvenienced by confrontation. Like a stranger. Now, months later, they're playing house in my home, sleeping in the bed I bought, using the dishes I picked out, celebrating their new life like mine never existed. But I haven't forgotten. People say revenge is for the weak, for the better. But I don't feel better. I feel awake. There's a difference. And when I'm done, they'll know it too. It happened on a Tuesday. Not a dramatic, stormy night. Not some poetic date. Just a Tuesday. Cloudless, boring, a little humid. I remember because I was wearing a thin blouse that stuck to my back, and I kept thinking I should have brought a jacket. I was supposed to have a follow-up appointment at the clinic, but the doctor had to reschedule, so I came home early. The driveway was empty. Ryan had taken my car in for an oil change the day before and said he'd drop it back that afternoon. His was parked a few blocks over, I would find out later. Strategically hidden, like this was war, and I just hadn't realized I was the enemy yet. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that makes your stomach tense like it's waiting for a punch. The blinds were closed. The lights were dim. I kicked off my shoes and walked down the hall, calling his name once, just once. Then I heard it. Giggling, light, breathy, unmistakably hers. It wasn't just the sound. It was the perfume that hit me next. Vanilla and jasmine. Rachel's signature. A scent I'd helped her pick out last Christmas after a boozy brunch and an afternoon of department store samples. I already knew before I opened the door, but I opened it anyway. There she was, Rachel, standing at the foot of my bed, my sheets rumpled, her blouse unbuttoned. She was holding one of Ryan's dress shirts like it belonged to her, like it was normal. Her mouth dropped open when she saw me, but no words came out, just guilt, immediate and dripping. And then Ryan stepped out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, rubbing his hair like it was just another casual day in his destroy Lauren's life routine. He froze. I waited for panic, for scrambling, an apology, even a lie. But he just sighed, like I'd interrupted something inconvenient, like I was a dog who'd wandered into the room after rolling in mud. He didn't even look shocked, just annoyed, like I'd interrupted their vacation or something. Rachel finally found her voice. Lauren, I didn't mean, it just, we didn't. Ryan cut her off. I was going to tell you. 7 words. That's all I got. Not I'm sorry. Not this isn't what it looks like. Not you deserve better. Just, I was going to tell you. As if that made him noble. As if the timing was the only crime. I stood there for a few seconds. I didn't cry. Didn't scream. My heart wasn't even racing. Something inside me went very still, like stepping into a soundproof room, the kind where your own breath sounds too loud and too close. I turned around. I walked out with nothing but my keys, my phone, and a backpack I kept in the front closet for gym days. I didn't say a single word. I just got in the car and drove to my sister's place on the north side. She opened the door and took one look at my face and knew. I slept on her couch that night. Well, laid there, eyes wide open, listening to the refrigerator hum and the city buzz outside the window. It was my birthday the next day. I didn't tell anyone, but he remembered. That morning, a knock came at the door. A courier, a manila envelope, no note, divorce papers, on my fucking birthday. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because my brain couldn't process how quickly he had erased me, like I was some stain on his perfect life he could scrub out before noon. It got worse. The documents listed our house as marital property, the house I bought, with my inheritance, from my grandmother, the only person who ever made me believe I was special. And within a week, Rachel moved in. My friends, the couples we used to dine with, the people I hosted in my backyard every summer, started falling away one by one. No calls, no texts, just silence. Later, I found out what he'd said, that I was unstable, that I'd become obsessed with getting pregnant, that I'd stopped being affectionate, that I'd shut him out, that he tried, but I just wasn't the woman he married anymore. He burned down my reputation to build a new life, with her. And they believed him, because that's how it works, isn't it? When a man tears a woman apart, people ask what she did wrong. They nod sympathetically when he says, it was complicated. They look at the woman, worn down, grieving, hollow, and say she must have driven him away. That's when something snapped. No more crying. No more begging the world to see me. I saw myself for the first time in months. No one was coming to save me. So I saved myself, and if I was going down, I was taking them both with me. Grief didn't hit me like a wave. It came like smoke, thick, constant, suffocating. You don't notice how badly you're choking until you're already crawling on the floor, trying to breathe. After the papers were served, I tried to be okay. I went to therapy, started doing yoga, got a side job ghostwriting blog posts for a health site I didn't believe in. My sister gave me sleeping pills just so I could rest more than 3 hours a night without dreaming of him, of them, in our bed, in my house. But nothing touched the rage. It sat under my skin like a fever, and Ryan didn't stop. He didn't even slow down. His lawyer buried me in paperwork, discovery requests, affidavits, motions to freeze joint assets. He moved fast, precise, ruthless. He was trying to gut me financially. The same man who used to kiss my forehead every morning now wanted to leave me with nothing, not even my name on the deed. But here's the thing he forgot. I used to be an investigative reporter, not a fluff piece writer, not a lifestyle blogger, a real journalist. I'd spent my 20s chasing stories no one wanted told, exposing fraud, digging into corruption, asking the questions people were afraid to answer. And now, all that skill, all that instinct, all that obsession with truth was turned on him. I started with the obvious. I dug into our old tax returns. I cross referenced emails from the firm's staff holiday parties. I tracked Rachel's social media. She was too self absorbed to go private, which worked in my favor. Between her captions and her geotags, I had a timeline mapped out within a week. That's when I realized the affair started before the second miscarriage, before I'd been wheeled into surgery, clutching Ryan's hand, sobbing. They had already been sleeping together. That was the moment I stopped crying and started plotting. Ryan didn't just want to move on, he wanted to erase me. I stopped responding to his lawyer's calls, let them think I was overwhelmed, let them underestimate me. Meanwhile, I got to work. I left anonymous tips at his firm, HR complaints about his temper, whispers about inappropriate relationships, nothing too overt, just enough to raise questions. Then I reached out to a former reporter friend who now freelanced for a financial crime blog. Slipped her some documents I found in a folder at home, mostly about a client Ryan helped with offshore tax loopholes. Not illegal, but ugly. A firm like his, obsessed with image, wouldn't want it getting out. Next, I created a fake social media profile, something polished but forgettable. A woman named Claire, who worked in non-profit marketing and had an affinity for candle making and wine bars. Rachel took the bait in 3 days. I played the long game, weeks of friendly DMs, compliments, relatable memes. I mirrored her tone, her cadence, her insecurities. It didn't take long before she was venting about Ryan, about how hard it was to feel secure with him, about how his firm was so uptight and full of secrets. Secrets, huh? Every day I documented everything: dates, transactions, screenshots, patterns. I kept it all in a locked folder on a burner laptop I bought with cash from a pawned bracelet Ryan once gave me just because. Then I found it, a payment from our joint account, one I never approved, to a shell corporation I traced to a P.O. box downtown. It led to a separate bank account in Ryan's name only. Hidden assets. He was hiding money from me, from the court. But the plan didn't truly come together until I found the other woman, not Rachel, a paralegal at his firm. I remembered her vaguely from a holiday party. Young, smart, quiet. Her name was Maya. I reached out under the guise of a legal content writer, looking for insight into corporate law culture. Professional, friendly, curious. She was hesitant at first, but after a few emails, she agreed to chat, just casually, just off the record. We met for coffee. She was cautious until I asked about Ryan Foster. The moment his name left my lips, something in her face changed, tightened. Her hands gripped the ceramic cup like she needed to anchor herself. She told me, slowly, carefully, that they had been involved, that he told her he was separated, that he said he was trapped in a loveless marriage with a woman who was unstable, emotionally distant, obsessed with a baby that never came. She paused. He made me feel sorry for him, she said. And then he discarded me like I was just a phase. She hadn't told anyone. She was afraid of retaliation, of being labeled a liability. I didn't push her. I just listened, took mental notes. Then I asked, gently, if I told you you weren't the only one, would you want to do something about it? Her silence was answer enough. I left that day knowing I had leverage. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice. Ryan thought he could tear down my life, bury me in the rubble. It took 3 months. 3 months of digging, documenting, staying silent while my reputation was dragged through the dirt and my name became a punchline in circles I once called friends. But by the end, I had it all. The shell corporation, tucked inside a maze of fake invoices and dummy accounts. The firm's misconduct, swept under the rug by old men in tailored suits who didn't want to deal with HR complaints during merger season. The emails and texts from Maya, confirming Ryan's manipulation, his lies, his thinly veiled threats when she tried to break things off. And worst of all, the messages between Ryan and Rachel, recovered through Rachel's poorly secured iCloud backup. Messages mocking me after the miscarriage, jokes about my hormone injections, one from Rachel after the second loss. At least now we can have a real honeymoon. That was the line that did it. Not the fraud, not the gaslighting, not the months of being treated like collateral damage. That sentence. I didn't cry when I read it. I didn't even flinch. I just clicked save as PDF and added it to the folder labeled Final Strike. Then I waited. Ryan's final partnership vote was scheduled for a Thursday morning, a closed-door meeting with the firm's senior partners, the kind of thing he used to rehearse for in front of our bathroom mirror, tie half-knotted, eyes gleaming. The night before, at 9:01 p.m., I sent the dossier. No signature, no subject line, just a file attachment titled Due Diligence. By noon the next day, Ryan's name was gone from the firm's website. By Friday, he was officially suspended pending internal review. I didn't celebrate, not yet. The real moment came 2 days later, when my new attorney filed a countersuit for emotional distress, financial fraud, and defamation. The kind of suit that doesn't just sting, it lingers. Ryan's lawyer tried to laugh it off, said I didn't have the resources. What he didn't know was that I'd partnered with a women's legal aid fund, a non-profit that helps women take down abusive spouses in high-profile cases. They read my draft article, saw the paper trail, approved the full grant within a week. Poetic justice? Maybe. I call it balance. And then I did what I do best. I wrote, not a rant, not a hit piece, a story. The Legal Widow, How I Lost Everything to a Man Who Promised Me Forever. I published it on a major independent journalism platform. Long form, fact-checked, clean, every quote sourced, every accusation backed by documents, screenshots, timelines. It wasn't a sob story. It was a case study in how powerful men rewrite the narrative, in how women are labeled hysterical while quietly bleeding, in how betrayal isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just silent dinners and polite smiles while your world rots underneath you. Within hours, it went viral. By morning, it was front page on Reddit, trending on Twitter, picked up by 3 podcasts and a feminist column in The Atlantic. Rachel's name trended, not in a good way. They closed comments on their shared Instagram account, deleted photos. A week later, her Etsy business went dark. No updates, no new listings, just a blank bio and silence. And Ryan? He called me, blocked number, but I picked up. His voice was quiet, broken in a way I'd never heard. Not even when we buried the baby. Not even when we buried us. Lauren, he said, you need to stop. You're ruining my life. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just said, clearly, you ruined me first. I'm just finally telling the truth. There was a long pause. Then the line went dead. I stared at my phone for a moment. Not with triumph, not with regret, just release, like exhaling after holding your breath for years. Later that night, I walked into my apartment. The tiny one bedroom I'd rented after the court forced me out of the house I paid for, and sat down at my kitchen table. The divorce wasn't final yet. There was still a mountain of paperwork, hearings to schedule, depositions to give, but something inside me had already closed. A door, maybe, or a wound. People messaged me after the article. Strangers, mostly. Women I'd never met. Some said they cried. Some said they sent it to their sisters. One wrote, I thought I was crazy until I read this. Thank you for putting it into words. I don't know what happens next. Maybe Ryan gets disbarred. Maybe Rachel fades into influencer purgatory. Maybe they try to rebuild somewhere no one knows their names. Or maybe they just sit in the wreckage and pretend it was all an accident. That's not my concern anymore. All I know is this. He tried to erase me, and I wrote myself back into existence. Ryan didn't go down in flames. Not publicly, at least. Men like him rarely do. But he fell hard enough to feel it. The firm restructured after the internal review. That was the word they used. Restructured. Translation: he was demoted, stripped of any shot at partnership, and hit with legal sanctions for failure to disclose financial assets during the divorce proceedings. His name didn't disappear from the industry, but it lost its shine. Rachel deleted her social media entirely. No farewell post, no explanation, just gone, like she'd never existed online at all. Last I heard, they were still together, but barely. I don't wish them well. I also don't waste time wishing them anything at all. As for me, I didn't bounce back overnight. There's no clean break when it comes to betrayal. Just 1,000 tiny fractures you learn to live around. Healing didn't look like glowing skin and green smoothies. It looked like panic attacks at the grocery store when I saw someone who resembled him. It looked like waking up at 3 a.m. to silence and wondering how I ever thought I was safe. But slowly, something shifted. I found freelance writing gigs. At first, it was small stuff. Product blurbs, newsletters, listicles. Then I pitched bigger stories, real ones. One of them even landed on a national women's outlet. A month later, I launched my own newsletter, The Legal Widow, a space for women who've been betrayed in love, in law, in life. I wrote about manipulation, about gaslighting, about how hard it is to start over when you feel like your story was rewritten without your consent. I didn't name names. I didn't need to. The subscribers came anyway. Women from all over the country. Some fresh out of the wreckage. Some decades removed, but still bleeding. They didn't want revenge necessarily. They wanted to be seen. I gave them that. For the first time in years, I felt like myself again. Not someone's wife, not someone's failure, just Lauren James. I moved out of my sister's place into a one-bedroom apartment across town. Nothing fancy, but clean, warm, mine. I signed the lease with my full name. No husband, no joint bank account, no co-signer, just me. It felt like a rebirth, not a loud one, just a quiet reclamation. I even started dating again. Not seriously. Coffee dates, long walks, no pressure, no timelines, no auditions for wifehood, just conversations. Slow and cautious and real. And this time, it's on my terms. There are still days I wake up with the old ache. Days when I wonder who I'd be now if none of it had happened. If the marriage had worked, if the babies had come, if Rachel had stayed a friend instead of a footnote in my survival story. But then I remember what I've built. Not from what they left me, but from what they tried to take away. Revenge didn't fix everything, but it gave me closure. It reminded me I am not helpless, that I am not disposable, that I am still me. And maybe that's the real victory. Not that I ruined him, but that I refused to let him ruin me. It's quiet on this street, the kind of quiet that used to feel like home. I stand across from the house, that house, one last time, not hiding in my car, not gripping the steering wheel with rage in my throat, just standing. There's a wreath on the door, new flowers in the window box, a different welcome mat. It doesn't look like mine anymore. It isn't. And that's okay. I don't knock. I don't need to see their faces. I'm not here for them. I'm here to say goodbye. To the woman I was inside those walls, hopeful, loyal, terrified of losing something she didn't realize was already gone. To the dreams I had in that kitchen, that bedroom, that nursery that never was. To the ghost I used to be. I take one last look, not with bitterness, not with grief, just peace. I used to believe love meant sacrifice, that if I gave enough, stayed loyal enough, people wouldn't leave. But now I know, real love doesn't require you to disappear. I turn around and I walk away. No tears, no dramatic music, just the sound of my footsteps on pavement and the wind catching the hem of my coat. The camera lingers on my back as I fade into the distance. A woman unmade and then rebuilt, not saved, self-rescued, final voiceover. This time, I'm building my life without him, and this time I'm not losing myself in the process.